Did you know that? Did you know gun sales spike after mass shootings because people think, I'm afraid I better get one. And the people who own these companies say, awesome. They literally profit off of death. Somebody is looking for a paycheck tonight because of what happened at Annunciation Church School this morning. Shame, shame, shame. And I'm telling you, we got to stick and we got to stay. And we got to outlast these people who are looking for these paychecks after the murder of our children. We got to be longer than them. We got to be more persistent than them. And when we do that, we will make peace on this earth. Love you.
Thank you so much, Attorney General. Next up are remarks from Representative Emma Greenman and Senator Zainab Mohammed, who represent this area in the state legislature and Senate.
Thank you all for being here tonight. We are shattered and heartbroken and join communities in the state and around the country who have been here before. We are thinking about the families of those two beautiful children, the 17 children, the 14 children, and 3 parishioners who were injured, the Annunciation family, and all of our family, because what you know, if you live in South Minneapolis or Richfield or maybe Edina, you may have bought your Christmas tree at the Annunciation lot. You may have given blood in Annunciation. You may have had your kids or be a kid who went to Girl Scouts there. They are a center of our community for both their kids who went there, for their families, for the parishioners, but also for everybody across Minneapolis, across the South Metro. And we know that there's many of you here who are crushed and are feeling that tonight it is really hard to think about how we move forward. And I'm there, I'll be honest. It is hard because we know that there are other communities who have had this happen, and yet it happened here again. We know because there are kids who are not going to go back to school tomorrow, and many more who are terrified of a place that should keep them safe. And they join kids who have been in movie theaters and in grocery stores and their families. Everyday people should be safe doing their everyday things. So I just want to, there's so many words, and I'm so grateful for the entire community. I just want to end with something that Principal Matt Du Bois said this morning at the press conference. He said, he quoted a proverb that said, when you pray, move your feet. So I want to ask you here, wherever you're at today, look to your neighbor, introduce yourself. I know that this is a very Minnesota thing not to do. Maybe shake their hand, maybe give them a hug. Because when you pray, move your feet, but we know we have to move our feet together. And this is a good start, and there's a long way to go, and there are people around the country calling and saying this has to be the last time. So when you pray, move your feet, and remember, we will do this together.
Hi everybody, I am Zainab Mohammed and I'm the state senator of this district. Thank you for being here. I am, like all of you, devastated for our community, devastated for the parents who will not have a child to go home to tonight, devastated for the parents who are spending the night at the hospital with their kids, devastated for the parents who have to think about what it means for them to send their kids back to school. for our teachers who had to experience this, for our neighbors, for our community. But we're not alone. We're joining hundreds of families that experience this in communities across the country. Over 500 school shootings happen, and that is unacceptable. Unacceptable that our community, that our parents have to send their kids to school hoping that that's not the last time that they're going to see their child. Unacceptable that kids have to hug their parents hoping that that's not the last time they're going to see their parent. No one should have to live like that. When I think about this moment in this community, I'm thinking a lot about how this moment is going to change our community forever, fundamentally. It's certainly changed those kids and their lives forever. And you'll hear a lot from leaders. But while you're here in South Minneapolis, what I want you to do is get to know our neighbors, understand the pain that they're feeling. But more than anything, what you can do is reach out to your leaders and tell them they can do more. They can do more. We banned red flag laws. That's not enough. We banned background checks. That is not enough. Weapons of war have no place in our communities. They have no place in our schools. This isn't a political speech. It isn't a right or wrong or left. It isn't a left or right issue. It's just what morally has to be done for our kids. And so thank you for being here. Hug your kids, your family, and your loved ones. And we appreciate you for being here today.
Thank you so much. We have a few more speakers, and then we're going to have some prayer. But before we get there, there's a number of organizations that are here today that I want to make sure that I acknowledge. And that's because we know that the work didn't start today. The work started decades and decades ago, and there are folks who are on the street every single day, boots on the ground, saving lives. And without them, our communities would look much worse. And I just want to make sure that I thank them for what they've done over the past several years, several decades, and for their presence today, calling for a change. So Restorative Justice Community Action is here. Agape is here. Change Starts with Community is here. Save Our Sons is here. Metro Youth Diversion is here. Touch Outreach is here. Restoration Inc. is here. One Sound North is here. Hope Project MN is here. Don't Shoot Guns, Shoot Hoops is here. Mad Dads are here providing security for us tonight. So if you see the folks, thank you so much for being here. If you see the folks in the green t-shirts who are patrolling around the park and around the perimeter, they are here making sure that we are all safe tonight. And they do it every single day on the streets of Minneapolis. So please make sure that you thank them. Thank you to the police and the first responders who were at the school this morning. Thank you to the parks who allowed this to happen, the firefighters, and to HCMC who received the victims this morning, and the doctors who worked on them to save their lives. Grief and trauma counseling will be available at Creekside United Church of Christ tomorrow and Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So if you feel that you need it, please take advantage of that. And one more quick shout out to our partners in planning and executing this event, Moms Demand Action, who are there by our side, leading with us every step of the way to make this a state where gun deaths don't happen. So thank you so much to every partner who is on the ground keeping our communities safe. You don't get enough recognition for it, and we're so grateful you're here this evening. And for those I left out because I haven't bumped into you yet, I apologize, and I hope to see you tonight. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our next speaker, Senator Amy Klobuchar.
Thank you. I just got here. I was at Holy Angels with some of the families, and this is just doesn't surprise me that we have such an incredible group gathered here today. I met one of the families that lost their child today, and when you saw them huddled together, the sister doesn't have a sister anymore, holding her little bear, it hit home just what happened here this morning. You think about that family dropping their child off, week school, the joy of seeing who's your new teacher, seeing your classmates again, and it ends here. And what I keep telling people across the country, and I thought Emma and Zaina did such a beautiful job of talking about this community. I talked to them about, yes, this is a school and a church on a hill, but right next to that school and that church is a house, and then another house, and then another house, and then a shop, and then a restaurant, and then another school. This community is incredibly strong, and today I saw the neighbors sitting out on their lawn chairs just to give each other a hug. And I saw people bringing food, and I saw people embracing these kids. These families are going to need a lot of that over the next months. And yes, there are major policy things. I have long, I think you all know, been an advocate for changing our laws ever since way back at my time in the Hennepin County Attorney's Office. But the only way there's going to be that kind of courage is if, as Emma noted, people stand up. Because these vigils, these beautiful vigils like this took place after Uvalde, and they took place in Buffalo, and they took place in Nashville, and they took place in Florida, and they took place in Connecticut. But every time there's more and more families, there's more and more people. So my prayer tonight is this is the vigil that makes a difference. That the stories of these families that I talked to tonight, when they get through their grief enough to tell them, people hear the stories of the older kids literally laying on top of the little kids, and the teachers' heroic actions, and the members of the church. They should not have to do this. Sixth graders should not have to protect first graders. We should be doing that. So let us take this tremendous love of this vigil, and yes, continue to give it to this community and this family, but then let us turn it into action. Thank you.
Thanks, folks. A couple more speakers and then prayers. Next up is Congresswoman Andy Craig.
South Minneapolis, I wanted to be here with you this evening on behalf of every single one of my constituents in the 2nd District of Minnesota who mourns with you tonight on your loss. Thank you to the incredible first responders who undoubtedly save lives today. Thank you to our healthcare professionals at HCMC at Children's who we know save lives today. But before I conclude, I just want to tell you that I come before you as a mother of 4 sons, as a grandmother of 3 little babies. And just as we were getting the word that this had happened today, a first day at school photo of my nearly 4-year-old grandson came up on my phone. Folks, we do not have to live this way in America. We don't have to live this way. The weapons of war that are on our street, we can do something about it. So I ask every single one of you here tonight, this extraordinary gathering of Minnesotans, I ask every single one of you who hear our words that it is up to us as a community to demand more from our lawmakers, to fight, to make sure that these weapons of war are off our street. Folks in this country talk about freedom a lot. I talk about freedom a lot. How about the freedom to take your child to school and not be shot? How about the freedom to go to church or your mosque or your synagogue and not be shot? Folks, if we're going to fight for freedom, let's fight for the freedom from gun safety in our country. Thank you.
Thanks, folks. Our last speaker of the night before we pivot to some prayers, community time, and reflection is a Representative Ilhan Omar.
Good evening, everyone. I said that to someone earlier as I was walking in the neighborhood. And he looked at me and he said, "Nothing is good, Congresswoman." And I felt that this morning when I woke up. I saw the news. One of my staffers sent me. And as I do with any gun violence, I forward it to my eldest daughter, who's been particularly active in ending gun violence in our country. And she quickly ran into my room and she said, "Mom, did you know the kids were praying when they got shot at?" And we both just stood there. And that hit hard because you hear politicians, when tragedies like this take place, call for prayer. Because we all understand the power of prayer. To heal, to comfort, to uplift. But the kids were praying when they were assassinated. So what does that tell us? That tells us that there is something fundamentally broken in our society. There is something fundamentally broken. And as my brother Keith Ellison said, we don't get to have thoughts without taking action. We don't get to pray without uplifting others. And it is important as this community comes together that we do, yes, pray for the families that have lost their precious angels this morning. And yes, we pray for the families that are currently in the hospital, wishing and praying for recovery. But we also, as the principal said, pray and walk, because that calls us to take action, to end the thing that continuously makes this country unique in being able to mourn the death of their children and carry on as if nothing has happened or as if there is nothing that they can do. Many nations around the country have been visited with this tragedy, but they recognized that they had a power to change in order to make sure that that tragedy wouldn't visit their communities again. What makes us so helpless? How can we call ourselves great as a nation if we cannot protect the most precious, which is our children, our future? On the anniversary of Columbine, when my daughter led a school walkout, she visited me as a state legislator. And she said, "Mom, you were in high school when Columbine happened. If you guys did something, we wouldn't have to have a walkout nearly 20 years later." And so it is up to us to make sure this tragedy does not visit any other community in this country ever. And we do that by reminding folks that you can change whatever laws that you want in Minneapolis. You can change whatever the laws that you want in Minnesota. But if we do not change the laws of these United States of America, none of our kids are going to be safe. Because Minnesota is not a country. Minnesota is part of a union. The people who have access to guns around this country are our neighbors. They don't get to have a passport and come in here. They can just drive. So this fallacy that we make ourselves believe that because we live in this great Minnesota that we are protected is a fallacy. Because it is going to take national protection for all of our kids in these United States to be protected. And I am committed, so as everyone you heard from, in pushing for that on a national level. But I hope that commitment gets to be shared by the other leaders in our nation. A commitment that they are going to love our children more than they love their guns. That it is important that we are free from the violence of guns in this country. And that we are free to see our children become adults and raise their children. Because we owe it to them as the adults who made it from children. So thank you.
Thank you to our political leaders for being with us tonight. And what I want to say before we pivot to some community time and prayer is thank you for those commitments to addressing this, and we'll be there every step of the way in partnership with you and to make sure that it happens. Next, we're going to welcome up Imam Jelani Hussein and Imam Ali to lead us in some prayer.
As it was said earlier, first and foremost, I want to greet you all with a greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May peace and blessings be upon you all today.